So I checked my notes right before I hopped on to film this thing, and my notes say for today, soaping. That's it. It says soaping. So apparently we are soaping today, and that makes me wonder how that's different from any other day. Really? So you guys are gonna watch an intro while I go see if I can get some more information about today and what exactly we are soaping. And I will tell you that in just a minute. But before I do that, hello, I am Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff. What is up, Sudsers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things. And yeah, you are here for day 264. And what we are doing today is soaping basics. I forgot a word in my notes, and it's good. I can't believe I forgot this, actually, because this is a very important thing. Again, since we are doing some more like low-key, awesome content throughout the rest of the 2020, we are working with, process and technique and things like soap making basics. And so, yeah, today we're going to be focusing on, what you need to set up your space, to prep your workspace, to line your mold, and to clean up. Now, the cleanup thing is actually very interesting because I see a lot of comments on different soaping forum things where people are asking about cleanup, and so many people say that they just leave their soaping containers for 2 or 3 days until it becomes soap, and then they clean it. And I'm like, do you only make 2 batches of soap a week? Because that's a lot. So I'm going to show you how I clean up in the video, so we should go check that out and we can talk more about all of those things there. So all of the things you need to do to make soap start with the first step, which is going to be lining your mold. And the first step of the first step is dimensions of mold, right? Like my handwriting? Super fun. Like that? Like my blue hands? Yeah, just cross all that out. That's not... You can do it that way. You can totally do it and do the maths and all the things. That's fine. And maths are fun. But that's not how I line my mold. Now, there are a lot of really confusing and really crazy tutorials out there on how to line a mold. But I have found that this is actually the best way to do it. And it is still a pain in the butt, but is less of a pain in the butt than lining it the other way. So I put my actual mold onto my paper. And I measure how much I'm going to need to get to the top of my mold, lengthwise. And then I cut my paper to that. All good so far, right? Now, I don't use straight edges for any of this, as far as rulers and all the things. I mean, again, you can, but it takes forever. So what I basically do is I use the straight edge of the width of the paper, right? Because it is a straight line. Even if I didn't cut a straight line, that is a straight line. So it's all good. And then I take my finger and my fingernail and I make sure it's a nice, really tight, really awesome crease. Kind of like origami. And again, this is bothering me that my hands are so weird. So I had a fight with some tie-dye with the Soap and Clay Kidlets. And by fight, I mean, I didn't want to waste gloves on tie-dye, and so my hands are now, that's the consequence of it. So yes, the line that you just made, you're going to line that up with the inside measurement of your mold. And for me, it's real easy to determine that because these molds were made by Mr. Soap and Clay so many years ago, and I won't let him make me pretty ones, and he's been begging me to let him do it forever, especially since I started the channel. He's like, please let me make you better molds, and I'm like, no, these work fine. Why would I want more? And so yeah, you just mark the other side for the interior lining of the mold, the interior part of the mold, and then, you know, a test fit. That's good. You can totally test fit it. That's awesome. But I already know that it's going to work, and so I am just then going to take it and sort of arbitrarily make a cut or make a crease where it will cover and go up to the top of the side of the mold, right? And just make a crease. Do the thing. It's awesome. And make sure you use your fingers to do the thing, and make sure you have a really nice, very tight crease. Now, this actually ends up being too much liner for this particular mold, but that's okay because I actually use the rest, the cutoffs, to line the molds for the classes that I do at the shop. So that little cutoff that I get perfectly fills a 1 pound mold. Now, once you have that nice tight crease, you just line it up against the side wall of the mold, right? And then take something to the inside and the other side and create another line that you can then, you know, when you take out the liner, you can then fold over that to create another really tight crease. And those are your dimensions without having to do anything, without having to get out your rulers and your straight edge and your maths and all the things. You now have a nice, you know, a liner. And for this, to make sure that it's easier to fold into its little, essentially like envelope, I cut out the majority of the side flaps, because that's just excess paper that doesn't need to be there, and it actually makes folding it into your mold a little bit complicated. And then you're just going to take this long side here and match it up with the other long side, and then crease it right there and fold it down, you know, to the back, and do the exact same thing with the other side. Match them up and then crease that one as well. And this is still the longest and most like painful part of making soap for me, is the lining of the mold. And so, I mean, to that, you can get a whole bunch of silicone molds. You super can. And I've actually tried different things. I guess I should maybe show you all the different like test things that I've tried. Like, we have lined wood molds with a silicone caulk before. We have, which it's interesting for sure. We've lined wood molds with those silicone flexi like cutting boards before, like literally glued into the mold itself. But this right here, it becomes the easiest way to make soap across the board because it perfectly fits in there, and it's not, you know, you don't have to take the mold apart to get the soap out. It just slides right out. So all good things. And then I just cut down the corners of each of the of all four sides, so it will lay nice and flat when I attempt to take tape to it. And by attempt to take tape, I legitimately mean I do in fact take tape to it, but all of my molds were made with MDF that we just had lying around in the garage. Like, Mr. Soap and Clay got this big thing, like it was like at least a pallet's worth of MDF for free from something, and it was just sitting in our garage forever. And I'm like, oh yeah, totally, that's awesome. I found a use for your MDF. We're gonna make molds, and then, you know, we're gonna make my baker's racks and all the things. And he was not happy with that because he's a big fan of using the right tool for the job, but I'm like, also I'd like to park my car in the garage. So yeah, look, we found a use for your MDF. And you know, then I tried to like spray paint them at some point to make them look pretty, and it didn't work. But ultimately it doesn't matter because your soap never comes in contact with, you know, the mold, and how pretty your mold is doesn't really matter. But also, or tape never really sticks to my molds, so it's all a thing. But you know, try. And that is the fast and dirty way to line a mold, and it's, you know, no mess. So next up, when you are getting ready to make soap, it is prepping your space. And first thing with prepping your space is obviously make sure that all things are out of the way so you have ample room in which to make soap. And, you know, smart, do that. If you are making soap in your kitchen, don't make it next to the brownies that you just cooked, because gross. Yeah, so nice clean surface area, free of debris, free of anything that could fall, free of anything that could trip you underfoot. That's why they say no kids and dogs in the soaping area, which I actually find super funny, because throughout this entire video you are hearing both kids and dogs, but they're not like literally under my feet while I'm making this, and they're not literally under my feet while I'm doing the voiceover for this. But people get real froggy about that. Like, if I ever hear a kid or a dog in a soap video, I just dislike it on principle. And I'm like, well, that's my whole channel, because I'm not literally, you know, making soap while my toddler sits at my feet, but also they're also in the shop while I'm making soap, and yeah, it's they're not next to me, but you can hear them, because that's life, and that's my life, and my life is busy and fun and full of the kids and the dogs and all the things. But anyway, so the first thing to, after you have cleared your area of debris, is to prep your lye solution and do the things. Set it aside so it can cool down while you are prepping everything else. Now, the everything else is all of the tools that you are going to need to make soap. So with this particular thing, you want to make sure that everything is nice and clean and ready to go. And clean it all out. It's great. And make sure it's nice and dry, no excess water. That's awesome. What else do you need? You've got your Pyrex. I've got my extra beakers for clays and scents, and I've got my whisk. I've got my spatula. That's basically all you need to make soap right there. Right there. You don't even need a stick blender. I recommend a stick blender, but you don't really need it. And then you're going to prepare your colorants. Now, when you're working with micas, you don't actually need to prep your colorants ahead of time. For first-time soap makers, I do recommend doing so you kind of have like a list of everything that you need to do, and you know, you take this beaker and then this beaker, all the things, sure. But micas, they disperse really easily in a cold process soap batter, so it's not necessary to do that with micas. Now, when you are dealing with pigments, it becomes necessary for sure, because it's a heavier weight actual colorant, and so you do want to disperse those ahead of time. But again, for first-time soap makers, I mean, even for seasoned soap makers, just so you have all your ducks in a row, yeah, sure. Like, make sure that all of your colorants are ready to go, and they're the color that you want, just in case things go sideways in a pour and your soap batter is getting too thick too fast and you don't have time to make any sort of adjustments. This way you reasonably have a good idea of how your soap is going to look and how the color is going to look in your soap batter. So yeah, totally do that. Mix, you know, measure out all of your micas and all the jazz, and then add the oils to them. Make sure they're nice and dispersed, and then, you know, go from there. That's also a good thing to do. And for the usage of oils in all of this, now I'm actually showing you something from an old video that we did about a month ago or so. 2 months ago, I guess at this point. The weird like epoxy glaze thing that I did. This is not necessary, measuring out how much you put into each container for your micas if you're, you know, doing color stuff. It's not necessary. I was doing this again because I was messing with something weird and removing a whole lot of oils from my thing. But also, if you want to, you can do that too, so you know how much oil goes into each for the dispersion. That's fine. You can do that. And now you are ready to soap. So that's awesome. So then the aftermath of making soap, and you've seen the making soap a lot, so I'm going to show you the aftermath. Now, soaping cleanup. This is actually a very interesting thing that there are so many different posts, like almost daily, about how to clean your soap dishes. And the overall consensus seems to be let them sit for like 3 days until it becomes soap, and then, you know, wash them. And that works if you only have one batch of soap to make every 3 days. But I don't. Do you? Like, I don't. I have like 20 batches a day to make. So no, here's what I do. I take a microfiber towel. Now I have a service. So I have a towel service that actually comes and collects all of my towels every week from the shop and cleans them, and, you know, brings me back, you know, new towels. But same concept, even when I didn't have a service, this is still what I did. I took a microfiber towel to all of my products, to all of my, you know, utensils, and got all of the raw soap batter out. And then that goes into a bucket or a bin or a bag or whatever, that towel. And over the next couple days, that right there, it becomes soap. And that's awesome. And then I would take this with the majority of it, the majority of the utensils, all the utensils have essentially no more soap batter on them, right? Then I take that and I take it to the sink and I wash them. And, you know, I'm on septic at my house. I am on city water at the shop. And in the years and years and years that I've been doing this, oh look, I tried to do it. Oh, it worked. Hey, my little finger clicky. I'm working on it, guys. Yeah, I just take it to the sink and wash it, and I have not had any problems with my septic. I have not had any problems with the city water. I've not had any problems with anything backing up, because it's hardly anything that's left on the, you know, containers at that point. So you just take it, you wash it, you just give it a quick rinse, and then wipe them out with another clean microfiber towel. And, you know, despite what Jaclyn Hill tried to claim with her lipstick palette, do you remember that? The lipstick thing with Jaclyn Hill, and how microfiber towels were being used to wipe out the vats, and that's why there were hairs in her lipsticks. That's not a thing. Nobody believed that, right? No, microfiber is great. Just wipe everything off, clean it all up, and it's beautiful and ready for another round of soaping. And if you notice, I actually used the same video for the end, clip for the end of this, as I did for the beginning, because it's all a circle. It goes round and round and round. Yeah, microfiber towels, get them, wipe them out, do the thing, wash them, because it's soap. You don't even need soap to put into your washer. It's all awesome. Like, you should do it that way. Don't wait for it to become soap. It's actually harder to get out that way. Wipe them down, let the rag sit for a couple days, then throw them in your washer and wipe and clean it all off. And it's not like Jaclyn Hill was full of crap when she said that whole thing with like the microfibers and the vats for her lip palette. That was not real. Like, that was an inaccurate statement. You'll be okay. Microfiber, yes. And the lining of the mold. Also, measurements and all the things. I don't do that. I mean, you can do that. I just find it kind of tedious. And, you know, like I have said before, Georgia May wants to make shirts for us that say tedious AF, because that seems to be one of the things that I hate doing, but always seem to be drawn to. The tedium in life. Yes. So yeah, that does it for soap making basics and prepping your space and all of the jazz. If you are interested in, you know, all of the soaps that come from the prepping the space and all the jazz, they're at soapandclay.com. Go check them out. Do the thing. Awesome. If you're interested in following me on social media, I'm there. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Cool. If you're interested in more soapy antics and seeing what we have in store for the next 101 days of 365 days of soap, because again, daily content, 264, 365, 101 days left. Like, that's wild. You could subscribe to the channel. That would be awesome. Every subscription helps me out in really big ways that you don't even realize, just by nature of clicking that button. So, you know, if you want to do that, that would be cool. For those of you who have clicked that button, hey, thank you for helping me out in really big ways that you don't even realize, because that's cool. I really do appreciate you. Thank you guys all for joining me for another round of 365 days of soap. That does it for me today. I am out of here. I will see you guys all again tomorrow. Bye. My mouth isn't working today. Lots of slurring.